recording on. Okay, that's going. And yeah, if anyone's wondering, like I use a different program like OBS to go ahead and record. So let's do some quick review. So HTML has 5 required tags. So someone go ahead and tell me one of the 5 required tags.
The language tag.
So lang is an attribute, though it is attached to a required tag. So HTML,
Body.
yep,
Doc type.
yep, body. We've got
Head.
dot, yep, head,
Head.
and
Doc type.
all right, doc type. What's the last one that we're missing that goes inside the head tag?
Title.
Yep. So these 5 tags, so title, head, body, HTML, and doc type, those are per the standard, all the ones required. So also, if you haven't done the homework, please do turn it in because I don't want to just I want everyone to get an A in this class. I don't want this to be a hard class. I want this to be a fun class. But like if you're having trouble with the homework, like just show up to my office hours and I'll explain whatever needs to be explained and help you out with any sort of homework. But for like question number 2, like basically like all you'd have to do is like do this and then just type something about yourself in the body tag. Um, so for question 3, so lang attribute. So why is this important?
It's so like, for example, you're making an article and someone on the other side of the globe is going to be reading that article.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever web browser is that the article is going to be on needs to know that so it can break language barriers.
Yeah, so for identifying language, so like if you have some sort of translation thing or the search engine, so very good, Benjamin. So that was question number 3. So question number 1 was an open-ended creative question, which the intended one was for you to make up your own tag that didn't exist and just go ahead and define it. Like I mentioned, like an example of like a dog tag. So the dog tag would display a dog, and you could go ahead and say the breed of the dog, and specify that, the age of the dog, and like say the XY location, and just go ahead and put that. So like on that one, if you had trouble, just like you could even, well, I don't like people using my examples for the homework, but just like come up with like a star tag and just be like it's a red giant or something like that, and it has this sort of celestial radius. Like that one, like it was just intended to get you more accustomed to writing HTML and what a tag looks like. Also, if you just joined and you haven't typed present in the chat, please do so, or you might not be counted. So, like everyone that's here, please do type that. And if you already typed present, that's fine. I just use the chat log to go ahead and do roll. All right. Also, I think, yeah, just to reiterate the Infinite Campus thing. So, like the individual that asked me, I'll respond to their email, but I thought it was reasonable to say. It's probably going to be a moment until I can actually get things entered into Infinite Campus because I don't have access yet. I'm going to later today get the stuff on Google Classroom graded. And generally, I'm going to try and set this class to have like one assignment a week. And I'm recording with OBS, so at the end of the day, I'll go ahead and let me make sure. Yep, it's still recording. I will make sure to post that, in which I unfortunately forgot to turn on the recording for my first period class, but functionally, this lecture should be the same. It'll have a little bit of variation. But let's go ahead and get into the actual new material. So we're going to learn about this thing called CSS, which goes ahead and allows us to like set how the web page is going to look. Also, if you just joined, go ahead and type present, please. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, please, if you just joined, type present to be counted. So before we start talking about this thing that allows us to like format how the page looks, we first need to talk about different base numbers. So like what do I mean by base? So like so you all use base 10. This is something that you're accustomed to using. So base 10 is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. Just like normal counting. So when I say base 10, what that means is that each digit in your normal counting has 10 values. So you notice, like for like all the numbers that we just counted from 0, etc., like the ones that are one digit, we only have 0 through 9. And then when we get to 10, we have to go ahead and go up like go ahead and get a new digit, because we've already exhausted all of the values because we're storing this 0 as a value. And like it's okay like if this is like a little bit confusing to you. Like this is something that I wanted to like introduce you very early, especially if you pursue computer science. This is going to be extremely important, different base numbers. So in a computer, everything is like a transistor that's on or off, true or false. It's what's called binary, which translates to base 2. So, how base 10 has 10 symbols to represent each digit, base 2 only has two symbols, 1 or 0. So, 0 in base 2 is 0, 1 in base 2 is 1, but 2 in base 2, 1, 0. So, the base 3 number, oh, sorry, the base 10 number 3, what is that going to be in base 2?
15.
Not quite. So we went 0, 1, 1, 0. What's the next number in the sequence going to be?
Oh, 100.
Not quite.
Okay.
So 100. So if we continued this 1, 0, then 1, 0, 0. So 4 would be 1, 0, 0. But when going from 1, 0 to the next number, like we still need to go ahead and count up that 0 value. So, like the number 5, like the base 10 number 5, what would that be in base 2?
110.
Close. It would be 101 because we have to go ahead and increment that up. Now, if we went to like the number 6, so we would go ahead and do 110 because like we're out of values in this digit, so we need to go ahead and carry over to the next digit. So this binary stuff, I'm not going to ask you like at least like for a long time like to like convert stuff. We'll do like a much later chapter where we just cover nothing but this. But I want you to at least know like what base for a number is. Now, one that we're really not going to use very often, but might still show up, that's still very common in computer science, base 8. So base 8, so base 8 like only has 8 values. So when we go ahead and get to the base 10 number 8, we need to go ahead and do 1, 0. And then the base like 8 value, well, the base 10 number 9 in base 8, would be 1 1. And then we go 1 2, which this like probably is just intrinsically confusing since you've never seen numbers in a different sort of base. So I want you to definitely like get accustomed to that. Also, if you just joined, please do type present in the chat so that you get counted for being in the lecture. All right, so the super important one that we're going to use that is going to come up with defining stuff in CSS is what's called base 16. So base 16, so it has 16 values. So we as English speakers or people that use English numerals only have 10 numbers to go ahead and hold value. So when we do things in base 16, we go ahead and borrow letters. So we go ahead and say the number 10 in base 16. Well, the number 10 from base 10 converted to base 16 is going to be A. Uh, 11 is going to be B, C, D, E, F. So F is going to be the value 15. Once we get to 16, 1, 0, because we're out of values. So especially when we go ahead and look at like RGB color, it's going to not be using, it's not going to be in base 10. It's going to be in base 16. So you might see something like a 1 0. You might see a number like this, and you might think, what's this A mean? So that A just means that is like particularly 10 in like that spot. So just keep in mind when you see these letters that they are higher values than these numbers. Like at the moment, like don't be too concerned with being able to directly convert the stuff. Just get accustomed to using these sorts of numbers. So let's go ahead and bring that back up. So RGB. So have any of you like taken an art class or painting class? So in your
Yes.
in your painting class, like how did you define like colors that were mixed together, if you recall? Like, do you remember the primary colors?
Secondary colors, I'm pretty sure.
Uh, Well,
Um,
oh,
there.
go on.
Never mind.
All right.
Yeah, it's secondary colors.
Oh, okay. So all of those secondary colors, like paint, when you're dealing with paint, you're dealing with what's called light reflection. So the rules for mixing colors with paint is fundamentally different for what we're going to work with, which is instead of reflection, we're going to be generating light and projecting light. So the three colors that we're going to be concerned with is a mix of red, green, and blue, the RGB standard. So if you project light and you have control of those three colors, you can generate anything a human can see. So like if like a pixel is the smallest sort of square on your like monitor, in any sort of pixel, there's a little thing that projects light. Actually, three different little things that project light. One of them is going to project red light, one's going to project green light, and one's going to project blue light. And adjusting the RGB values go ahead and allow you to change like what color is produced. So to give an example of how the hex stuff is used, so the like the most red with RGB. So with RGB, like each like red, green, and blue gets what's called two hex digits. So the first two digits are red, the next two digits are green, and the last two digits are blue. So if I were to give you the color FF 0000, that is the most red color because FF stands for the maximum amount of red light and no other light coming out. So that's going to be your most red. The hex color 00FF 00 is going to be no red, maximum green, and no blue. So that's going to produce the most green, and blue is just the most blue is going to be 0000FF because the two hex digits responsible for blue are going to be at their maximum. So if I were to give you, say, the color like the most red, FF0000. So let me write this out. So if I were to say, I want this color, but I want it to be just the smallest amount less red, what could I write here? So what would be one less when it comes to FF? So like keep in mind like F. So what sort of things like could we write here? Like FF. So if I were to say like give a different example, say 99,0,0,0,0. Like the smaller value for this redwise would be 98. So with FF, what would be the next smallest value? Like if I subtracted 1 from FF? Yes. So it would be FE 0000. Very good. So what would come before that?
EE0000.
Not quite. So, in order for it to be EE, let's see.
Oh.
So it would have to be this.
FD.
Yeah. So, yeah. So F D would be the one before that. So FD then 4 would be that way, and we could continue counting down until we got to say F0, then one less than F0, would be E. Then we'd have maximum value in the next one. So we'll definitely do a lot of practice when it comes to this sort of stuff. But I just want you to have a sense for what is greater and what is smaller when it comes to hex to start, so you can gauge, just have a feeling for approximately what color something will be when you go ahead and type in a hex value. All right, so RGB. So let's go ahead and look at what's called the class attribute and the ID attribute. So let's get some HTML here, and we're going to introduce ourselves to the style tag. So style is going to allow us to define things about the page, like to determine their color. So so on the slides, I specifically mention this thing called the class attribute. Class attributes are defined in style as just a dot, then the name of the class. And when I say name of the class, it's made up by you. It's a name that you choose. Don't put any spaces in it, but like any combination of letters for the most part is going to be a valid class. So if I sort of type greenish, I'm going to go ahead and make a class called greenish, and I'm going to give it what's called the CSS attribute color. So the CSS attribute color is going to set the color of text for things that have that class. So let's go ahead and say 01, let's say F1, and let's put a little bit of blue in it, so 44. So kind of a bright green. So this greenish, if I go ahead and say class, and remember, class is an attribute, and class and ID can be given to any tag, though ID has some special rules that we'll get to in a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and say in the body tag, I'm going to go ahead and say greenish for a class, and I'm going to go ahead and type hello world. So I've gone ahead and now created this style rule, all text that have this class, and I've assigned the class to the body tag. We'll go ahead and save that. Go ahead and load it and bring it to the correct screen. So you notice I have this green text now. Now, another sort of rule that we can apply, instead of class, we can use what's called ID. So ID is supposed, like, class is supposed to be like a group. Like, you define like a set of rules and say like green italicized text class or something like that. And then whenever you want to make something green and italicized, you apply that class. But ID is supposed to be for a unique element. Do not apply an ID to more than one element. That is breaking the rules of HTML, and that will have unforeseen consequences, like your page might render weirdly depending upon the browser. So you won't be able to anticipate what happens if you use ID more than a particular ID more than once. So ID in CSS, we use the pound or hashtag, and we say some ID, or like you make up an ID of something of that nature. So I could say N121 as an ID. Like it can be anything without spaces for the most part. And I'm going to go ahead and give this the CSS color attribute. Let's go ahead and give that more blue. So that's going to become kind of a tealish color, at least I see it as such. Um, but anyways, so we now have that ID like that. So if I were to go produce this div tag and go ahead and give the div tag the ID of N121, and go ahead and put this text in here, and I'll put in some more text. So also, if you just joined, please type present in the chat so you get counted on roll. So I've got this div tag, I've got this ID, and I've defined this color for this ID. So if I go ahead and render this, which is in this window, we get this color. Excuse me. So I can apply both color and a class and an ID to the same thing. So not color, class equals, and I'll say greenish. So I now have two different rules telling me what color this should be. So what color, someone give me a guess. What do you think this is going to render color-wise for the stuff in this div tag?
The ID, because it looks like it works from the top down.
Yeah, that's to like actually to put that in more specific words. So the more specific rule is going to be the one that applies. So ID is supposed to be unique. So that rule is going to be the one that applies. Like, no, it's not going to combine the colors.
I said or.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
Uh,
or.
all right. But it's going to go ahead and use ID. So if I go ahead and render this, it's going to go ahead and use that like tealish color, which if I went ahead and applied, say, this class to the body, I could change this text because it's in the body and it doesn't have something more specific changing it. And this one, because it has a more specific rule, it's going to go ahead and go with that more specific rule. All right. So CSS basically, like, it is something that like is standardized for saying how your page should look, like what color, what font, what position text should be in, how bold, how big are the margins, etc. Like, there's CSS to do most anything you could imagine. So as mentioned earlier, HTML comment. Does anyone remember what an HTML comment looks like? Also, before we go on with that, so ID can be used to identify a tag, and if you use style, you can change its color, its font, etc. But you can also do it off of class. So ID is just an identifier, just as classes, but ID is supposed to be unique in that there's one of that ID. Like, if I went ahead and did this with ID, that would be improper with HTML. With the letters and numbers, this uses what's called the RGB standard, and it uses yes, it does, which we're going to cover more so when we do JavaScript. So we're going to learn more about, like, the usages of the ID attribute. But for right now, just node is something that exists that is supposed to be unique. So on that color, like, what color do I know it's going to produce? So like with this standard, we have 6 hex digits that's in 3 groups. So we have red, red, green, green, blue, blue. And so like where like 0, 0 is no light, and FF is all the light, like all the light that little thing in your monitor can project. It ramps up as much as possible. So when I go ahead and write, say AA, so that's like a medium high amount of light. And if I say AA as the first 2, I'm saying a medium high amount of red. And if I go ahead and say 0, 1, so that, well, actually, we'll do a little bit more. So 20 is still like kind of a medium low amount, because this ranges from 0, 0 to FF. So this is kind of a low amount of green. And if I go ahead and say 0, 0, that's no blue. So this color is going to be a decent amount of red, a little bit of green, and no blue. And if I go ahead and like put that in, so it like this particular editor will go ahead and just show it to me that this kind of looks like a maroon color. Like, it'll display like what the color is going to be. On that one, just like, I think after you get some practice actually like using this, it'll become a bit more intuitive. I know, like, this hex number thing is like brand new to you. Like, you've not worked with like different bases of number before. Also, if you just joined, please, sort of. It is, and I'll go over the homework at the end of the lecture. But a short answer is yes. 11:15, so I still have. Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all Fs would be white, because that would be maximum red, green, blue. So if you give maximum of all of the colors, it goes ahead and produces white. And all zeros, so that would be no color projection. So that would be the color black. So like if you wanted to step through like the gray hues, Like it would be like 111, 222, etc. Like would be mostly like the gray sort of hues to make sure like all the red, green, and blue are equal. But we'll get a lot more, and yes, all the zeros will be black. So we'll get more practice with this as time goes on. And let's bring that back up. Okay, so CSS comment. Oh yeah, I was talking about that. All right, so HTML comment, which it's fine, like if no one remembers that. So HTML comment, like this doesn't show up in the page. But HTML comment is denoted by having a less than sign, exclamation point, minus minus. So that's the start of the HTML comment. And the end of the HTML comment is minus minus greater than, which goes ahead and ends the comment. So HTML comments aren't displayed on the page. They're notes to yourself or other people who might work on the page to go ahead and notate things about the page. The thing is, HTML comments can't be placed in a style tag. That is incorrect. You can't put it in a style section. You have to use what's called a multi-line comment, which is denoted by /* and ends with */. And this type of comment is extremely common in a lot of programming languages for defining multi-line. So be aware of that because we're going to use it occasionally to notate things. All right, so CSS comment. CSS comes in three like basic groupings. So this style tag that we just did, that's what's called internal. So internal means that it's you are defining the style in a style tag. If I were to go ahead and state style, so there's a style attribute that all tags can have. I can go ahead and define directly on this tag, like the style, and let's say, let's do no red, a lot of blue, and some green. So I'm going to go ahead and define the hex color as 00AA99. So that's going to give me like kind of a coral teal. You can argue about what exactly color that is. But I can go ahead and just directly on the tag adjust the style. Which that's going to allow me like very precise control if I want to override things, because this is going to be extremely specific. But generally, this should be avoided because then whoever is editing your page has to, like, if they want to change like a particular element, they need to scroll to that element instead of go to like the style section, which ideally you should make generalized rules that define all of the style and go ahead and apply those rules down. So another kind is what's called external CSS. So with external CSS, you go ahead and make a CSS file. So external means there's going to be literally an external file. And we're going to use the link tag to go ahead and the basis chart. So with the basis chart, and like this is a little bit easier to go ahead and do. Let me see, decimal to binary. Yeah. And I will put a text format on that. And number format. So let me quickly write this out because I think it will be useful to you. So decimal to octal. So base 8 is often called octal. And what I'm doing here right now is I'm using this is calc, but it's close enough to Microsoft Excel, which we will be learning things about Microsoft Excel later on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Yeah, I can definitely post this chart on Classroom, and I'll make a version of this for probably Google Doc, which you'll all have access to, and decimal to um, hex. Put it on that number, and let's say text formatting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And don't worry, I'll go ahead and post this chart, and I'll make adjustments to the text formatting. I think that the equations will give you a little bit of a jump start on how Excel programs work. But yeah, I'll extend this chart to 255, which, since I've written the equations for this, all I need to do is just drag it out, and it'll go ahead and produce everything according to the equation. Yeah. Spreadsheet probably. I think Google Sheets has an ability to programmatically set color based upon values, so I can probably do that. I'll check the documentation on Google Sheets to make sure that's possible, but probably. All right. So to review, external is going to be in an external file. Internal is going to be in the style tag. And inline is going to be specifically with the style attribute. And specifically the what we were doing up there with that pound sign or dot for class, that was called a simple selector. So with this, I could say, instead of doing this off of a class, which would be dot class name, if I wanted to say body, now I'm stating everything in the body is going to have these CSS attributes. If I stated similarly div, I am saying not div. And let's make that this color. So this sort of muted pink. All divs are going to be that muted pink, but again, it's going to take the most specific rule. So if I go ahead and load this, so I get the maroon body text, but there's another inline rule that's overriding this. So if I go ahead and take away this style, I just go ahead and delete it. So the only thing that's going so there's going to be the body. So first, the body rule is going to apply. Let me take away that clash. So the body rule is going to apply, but the more specific rule is going to be this div tag. So the stuff in the div tag is going to become that muted pink color. All right, so, and okay, I think I got enough time to finish this. All right, so the div tag that I've been using, it originally was supposed to be kind of tabs in a book. You can div to a specific section of a page, but in modern HTML, it has become just sort of a container that you either apply CSS to or JavaScript to go ahead and use it. Also, for an example of external CSS, so we use the link tag. We specify with an href the name of the file. This thing on the left is that file. So, again, if ideally you want to make the web page that you build very well organized, and external typically is a pretty good way of doing that, because if you define in an external file a bunch of rules for your web page, and you want a bunch of pages to be consistent, you could have one file that applies to a bunch of web pages instead of style. So generally, design wise, that's a good idea. But specifically the thing that you want to avoid, though you still have access to, is going to be doing what's called inline, which we go ahead and just use the style attribute on a particular tag. Which this one's an example of internal, where we go ahead and define style. This one's an example of inline CSS, where I just go ahead and define it like this. And to also reiterate, the color property just sets the color of text. The background color sets the color of the background color. And you're probably noticing a pattern here that many things in CSS are named very descriptively. So background color being the background color, it's fairly easy to like go ahead and determine like what it is doing. Width and height are literally width and height of like whatever element. So like width and height are properties, and you can define width and height either on px or just the number. So that's going to be pixels. So like your screen is like a certain resolution, so it has a certain number of dots. So if you define it off of those pixels, it'll be that big. When you do percentage, that's like if I stretch my screen over, like that's how like big like it, so if this like if your screen is so big like 500 pixels like big with how large it is, and you say 50%, that's going to be 250 pixels. It's going to be a percentage of the displayed page, which we'll get a lot more examples of that. So top and left, and don't worry, like the entirety of next class will be a review of this material. So top is going to be your distance from the top of the page. Left is going to be your distance from the left of the page. That's generally how the coordinate system for this works. And I want to quickly get to the homework, uh, which generally I'm going to make the homework due on Friday, and just have like one homework a week. So the homework, I have two questions. Like the second question, we get into specificity. Like it basically says like, hey, with this HTML and style, what color is going to like that div tag render and why? So like think about specificity as to like what color it's going to be. And for number one, this one is this W3 Schools. So this is their reference, and yeah, I'll end it in just a moment. So this is their like reference sheet. Go and find 3 tags, research that tag, and just like go ahead and like use an example of those tags, like background color or left and right, etc., or width and height. This has give or take most of the CSS attributes. So just go ahead and like scroll through this and find 3 that you find interesting, and just write an example using those 3 with CSS style. So sorry for like I'm trying to get things better within time. I hope everyone had fun. Again, I'll be posting this lecture online. Again, if you didn't do the homework, please do it. You can still get credit. Actually, all your credit at the moment. I'm not going to start being more strict on that, at least for the first like week or two. But we need to keep up the homework to make sure you have understanding, etc. So please do come to my office hours if you don't understand, and I can make other alternate office hours, which right now 2 to 3 are my office hours. So I hope everyone has a good day. Have a good class.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
You're gonna have office hours today, right?
Yeah, from 2 to 3. So
Thank you. Have a nice day.
you too.
Thanks. So, what do you mean by web page?
So when I say web page, like literally, like are you still seeing my screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so like this right here is a web page. Like it's things that are displayed in a web browser. So where did I put it? So this is a very simple web page that we generated.
I can't see your screen.
Let me. Let me turn that on and off.
Okay, I think I got it now, though. But thank you.
All right, cool. If you have any questions, just come by office hours or email me. All right,
All right. Bye.
bye.
I've just had like a lot of questions about like